Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something we all touch literally every single day, but probably never even think about. We're going to explore the rigorous, highly structured world of packaging safety. More specifically, we're looking at the exact accounting standards that track how companies keep us safe from the materials surrounding our food, our beverages, and our medicines. Using the official SASB Sustainability Accounting Standard for containers and packaging, we're going to pull back the curtain and reveal exactly how this industry is monitored.
Think about it for a second. What happens when the very thing meant to protect your food or medicine actually becomes the hazard? We rely on packaging to keep our products fresh and safe, right? But for consumer-facing industries like healthcare and food, a failure in packaging safety isn't just a minor operational hiccup. It's a direct threat to human health. When packaging introduces physical hazards or dangerous chemicals into the mix, it triggers a chain reaction of massive costs, lost revenue, and completely devastating blows to a brand's reputation. Today, we're going to look at how businesses measure, manage, and prevent these exact disasters.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, packaging safety matters. Then, tracking product recalls, the anatomy of a recall, managing chemical risks, screening out hazards, and finally, the bottom line. Part 1. Packaging safety matters, the high stakes of containers.
Okay, so to understand how companies are actually graded on their safety, we have to look at the metrics designed by the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB. Down under the product safety category, we're zeroing in on two very specific technical codes, RTCP 258.1, which tracks recalls, and RTCP 258.2, which tracks the management of emerging chemicals. Think of these two metrics as a two-pronged shield. One is reactive, and the other is proactive.
Moving to Part 2, tracking product recalls, the reactive shield. Let's start with the reactive side, metric RTC P25A.1. This deals with what happens when things go wrong by tracking total recalls and the units recalled. But under SASB standards, a recall is way more than just frantically yanking a box off a grocery store shelf. It covers a whole spectrum of actions. It could be a repair, a replacement, a refund program, or even just a formal notice or warning issued to the public. Basically, if the action is intended to protect consumers from a product presenting a safety risk, it's a recall, and it absolutely has to be tracked and reported.
Furthermore, companies have to clearly distinguish between two starkly different types of recalls. On one side, we have voluntary recalls. This is when a company proactively spots a safety concern and pulls the product from the market themselves. On the other side, you have involuntary recalls. And honestly, this is a much worse look. This happens when a company is forced by regulatory authorities to pull a product because it failed to comply with safety standards or had a discovered defect. The ratio between these two, it tells a fascinating story about a company's internal quality control.
Part 3. Anatomy of a recall. Dissecting a corporate crisis. You know, some recalls are definitely bigger than others. When a failure crosses the threshold into a notable recall, meaning it affected a huge number of products or tragically resulted in injuries, companies basically have to provide a detailed public autopsy of the event. They have to report the scope, like the exact description, the root cause, and the total units affected. They have to disclose the financial hit, which is the exact cost to remedy the issue. They also must state the actions taken, including whether they were forced to act or did so voluntarily, and what corrective steps they implemented. Finally, they have to disclose the outcomes, including any pending legal proceedings or fatalities. It's a highly comprehensive, transparent look at a failure.
Part 4. Managing chemical risks, the proactive shield. Which brings us to our second metric, RTCP 250A.2. If recalls are the reactive shield, this right here is the proactive shield. It's the invisible, systemic effort to catch hazards before a product is ever even manufactured. Companies use a brilliant multi-step flow to assess risks. Step 1 is product formulation and design. Basically, are we designing this container without hazardous characteristics right from day one? Step 2 is procurement. When we actually buy the raw materials and chemicals, are we screening our suppliers? And Step 3 is testing and labeling. Before anything goes out the door, are we running rigorous product safety tests and generating accurate material declarations?
So what exactly are they screening for? Well, the SASB standards specifically call out several classes of chemicals that are growing concerns for consumers and regulators. This includes plasticizers, like phthalates and BPA. You've likely seen BPA-free labels plastered on water bottles, right? It also includes specific phenols like butylated hydroxytoluene and preservatives such as formaldehyde. These are the specific microscopic threats that the proactive shield is designed to catch and eliminate.
Part 5. Screening out hazards, industry checkpoints. Okay, so how does a massive global packaging company actually keep track of all these chemicals? They use highly specific tools. And these aren't just dry, boring acronyms. These are the vital checkpoints keeping dangerous substances out of our homes. For instance, companies utilize GreenScreen, which is a fantastic method for assessing and substituting safer chemicals. They use CleanGredients for data verification during procurement, ensuring the raw materials they buy are completely safe. And they rely heavily on ISO 1862. This is an international standard specifically focused on the optimization of packaging systems, meaning it has rigorous criteria for minimizing hazardous parts. And to really illustrate the strictness of these checkpoints, let's look closer at that ISO 18602 standard I just mentioned. There is a very specific number it focuses on regarding heavy metals. That number is 4. Under the ISO 18602 framework, companies must actively track and minimize the amount of these 4 distinct heavy metals in their packaging: lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent chromium. By actively monitoring these 4 severe hazards, companies can prove to investors and the public that their proactive shield is functioning exactly how it should, keeping these toxic elements completely out of the packaging lifecycle.
Part 6. The bottom line: brand value and consumer safety.
We've looked at the reactive metrics of recalls and the proactive metrics of chemical screening. But how does this all tie together? Ultimately, managing product safety isn't just about checking off regulatory boxes. It is a massive driver of a company's financial health. If a company effectively utilizes proactive tools like GreenScreen and ISO 18602, they catch a hazard before it requires an incredibly costly product redesign. They completely avoid the devastating lost revenue of a massive recall, and most importantly, they protect their brand reputation. Because in the packaging industry, trust is everything. If you lose consumer trust, your market share vanishes. It really changes how you look at a simple cardboard box or a plastic bottle, doesn't it? There is this massive, complex, and highly regulated framework working tirelessly behind the scenes just to ensure that the materials holding our essential goods are actually safe. So the next time you open a package of food or take a medicine, will you think about the invisible shields protecting you? I really hope this explainer has given you a newfound appreciation for the silent science of packaging safety. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning and stay curious.